So there's a lot of huge misconceptions about podcasts and podcast growth. And I think the biggest one for me, and the one that comes up most commonly with clients and potential clients, is SEO. This notion that SEO is going to save your podcast. SEO is the reason that your podcast isn't growing. The reason that you're not getting the views you want is absolutely crazy. It's not the case whatsoever. And it comes up time and time again with people, particularly who have a podcast that's maybe stagnated or maybe hasn't grown to the level that they kind of expected that it would. And they start to look around at, what's the thing that I'm missing? And the most obvious one that comes up is SEO. They think, I'm missing that. I'm missing SEO. That's the reason why I'm not getting the listens that I want. Have you ever gone onto Google and searched for something? You had a question or you wanted more information on something and ended up listening to a podcast as a result. I don't know anyone who has. I've never done it, and I don't think that happens. When people Google search, they're not in the mindset to go and listen to a podcast. And what podcast delivers don't really align with Google searches and what people are trying to get out of them. So as well as that, podcast players, the likes of Spotify, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcast, whatever app you have on your phone, it's non-existent in them as well. If you're to search a phrase, it doesn't rank it in terms of what you're searching. I think people don't go onto podcast players to search a generic term. So the other one that comes up often is YouTube, and well, can we do YouTube SEO? And we've all had them messages. If you have a YouTube channel or if you've ever had a website, you get people all the time going, "Hey, your content's great, but what you're missing is ta-da, SEO. So why don't you pay me?" Or I get it all the time on my website. "Hey, I can do SEO on your website," as if it's this magic thing that people sprinkle in and in come the views and in come the results. It's just not the case. YouTube is far too advanced for that now. It doesn't look for a keyword in your description and your title, and if you've mentioned that keyword 4 times, that doesn't mean that you get a benefit of showing up higher on a search. It just doesn't work that way. Google or YouTube is more advanced now since about 2019, where it has AI scanning the transcript to figure out exactly what's been discussed and then figuring out where it can align it in a search. And it'll look at things like your authority based on your previous videos, how long you've been on the platform, what kind of engagement you're getting from previous videos. It's looking at all these different things to figure out what's the best one to put high on a search result. It's nothing to do with your keywords. It's nothing to do with how many times you fit a word in. It's way too clever for that now. So we can push that one aside as well. So I think here's the learnings from this. If anyone ever offers you SEO as a paid service, don't ever buy it. Whether it's on your podcast, audio podcast, or on YouTube, that as a service is non-existent. It does not help. It does not change anything. Never, ever buy it. I think where SEO can play a part in your podcast process is before you record. So make sure you don't consider it as a retrospective thing. You've recorded and produced your podcast. It's not got views. How do I fix that? Well, let's do SEO. That I need to demystify that completely now. That is crazy. Where it can help is before you go and record. If you do keyword research, what you can find, if you're using, I use Ubersuggest and I've used vidIQ. There's a bunch of them. They'll all give you good keyword research. And what you can figure out from that is, what is a space I can tap into? What is a topic I can talk about? And that can be super helpful, because something like vidIQ and Ubersuggest, and there's tons of others, can help you figure out how many people search for that phrase and what is the competition. So the higher the search number, the lower the competition, that's where your gap is. But what you need to do is use it as a strategy, not a strategy beforehand, and not something that you think is some sort of magic dust that you put in afterwards. So use them platforms to figure out What are the areas that might be likely to gain traction? The key takeaway here is that there is no SEO hack for your podcast. There's no hack in general for your podcast. Your podcast isn't stagnating or not growing because you don't have SEO. It's not failing to grow because you don't have a fancy intro with subtitles. It's not failing to grow because you don't record in a studio or because you don't record with a Shure SM7B microphone. All those things, sure, they're nice to have and they can improve quality of a podcast. They're secondary to the most important thing is, have you refined who your audience is? Can you look at the podcast title and go, I know exactly what this is about? Are you staying away from generic conversations that kind of touch on too many different points? Those are the things you need to be able to figure out, first of all. And I think it's just something I see time and time again, that people feel like there's a hack that they're missing, and it's not the case. So forget about SEO and start focusing on your core message and making sure that's very understandable from the outset. And that will put you in a much better position to grow your podcast.